That's where October 8, 1871 becomes impossible to ignore. Every American learns about the Great Chicago Fire. Mrs. O'Leary's cow, the wooden city, the rebuilding. What almost no one learns is what happened the same night at the same hour across 3 states simultaneously. In Peshtigo, Wisconsin, a firestorm consumed the entire town in approximately 1 hour. Between 2,000 and 2,500 people perished, making it the deadliest wildfire in American recorded history. The fire burned 1.2 million acres. Survivors describe winds strong enough to lift adults off the ground, flames that moved faster than a person could run, and a heat so intense that people crossing open ground simply burst into flame without being touched by visible fire. Reverend Peter Pernin, the parish priest who survived by submerging himself in the Peshtigo River, published his eyewitness account in 1874. He described a phenomenon that doesn't match any normal wildfire behavior. The available oxygen was consumed so rapidly that people who showed no burns were found deceased, as if the air itself had been weaponized. The fire created its own weather system, a vortex of superheated wind that behaved less like a forest fire and more like something detonating from a central point outward. The same night, Holland, Michigan burned. Manistee, Michigan burned. Port Huron, Michigan was threatened. Across 225 million acres of the upper Midwest, fires erupted simultaneously. The National Weather Service confirms these fires broke out across 3 states at the same time on the same evening. The official explanation is drought, lumber debris, and a cold front with high winds. Reasonable, except for one detail that has nagged researchers since 1883, the simultaneity. In 1883, a hypothesis emerged that fragments of Biela's comet had struck the atmosphere and ignited the fires from above. This theory was revisited in a 1997 documentary and investigated again in 2004 by the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Witnesses in Chicago reported blue flames burning in basements, a color consistent with unusual chemical combustion, not wood fires. The theory has never been proven. It has also never been disproven. But here's what matters for this investigation. The elderly Americans interviewed by the WPA writers in the 1930s were children in 1871. A 70-year-old interviewed in 1938 would have been 3 years old that night. An 80-year-old would have been 13, old enough to have watched the sky turn red, old enough to have been told by their parents exactly what happened. The Library of Congress describes those 2,900 interviews as containing tales of surviving the 1871 Chicago fire and pioneer journeys. But that description only scratches the surface. What else did those Americans remember? What did they tell the government writers about the night everything burned, and why was the project shut down before the full picture could emerge? The burning wasn't the only erasure. In 1890, the United States conducted the most comprehensive census in its history. For the first time, each family received an entire form. The census recorded immigration status, naturalization details, English language proficiency, home ownership, and Civil War service. 62.9 million Americans documented in unprecedented detail. It was also the first census for which the government broke from a century of protocol and did not require copies to be filed in local offices. Every previous census from 1790 to 1880 had local backups stored in county courthouses and state archives. The 1890 census existed in one location, the basement of the Commerce Department building in Washington, D.C. On January 10, 1921, a fire broke out in that basement. Approximately 25% of the records were destroyed outright. Another 50% suffered serious water and smoke damage. The investigation never determined a definitive cause. Theories range from a discarded cigarette to faulty wiring to spontaneous combustion of sawdust in the building's workshop. What happened